Next piece. As an addition to the above pieces just done, and also the piece I did on last Friday of the overtaking and elimination of the whites, here is a piece by a Jewish person named Israel Cohen, that name again, said back in 1912, again during the time period I mentioned in the last show. Quote, "We must realise that our party's most powerful weapon is racial tensions. By propounding into the consciousness of the dark races that for centuries they have been oppressed by whites, we can mould them into the programme of the Communist Party. We will invest to instill in the whites a guilt complex over their exploitation of the Negroes. We will aid the Negroes to rise in prominence in every walk of life, in the professions and in the world of sports and entertainment. With this prestige, the Negro will be able to intermarry with the whites and begin a process which will deliver America to our cause." Unquote. Seeing the picture now? Breaking that piece down confirms all that I wrote about in the series From Russia with Love. 1. Blacks mixing with whites for an agenda. Back then it was to boost voodoo magic. Now it's similar with an added political agenda. 2. Confirms the Communist Party is nothing to do with Russia and nothing to do with China and everything to do with the Khazarian and Ashkenazi Jews. Tells you there, our party's most powerful. We can mould them into the programme of the Communist Party. 3. Look at all the top American sports people now and also in entertainment. Aren't most black. Which is fine in and of itself. No problem with that. But how many are there because of this programme instead of their talent is the questions we have to ask. 4. Confirming their takedown and takeover of America. It's all there in your faces. They are their words, not mine, and begin a process which will deliver America to our cause. 5. All divide and conquer. Our party's most powerful weapon is racial tensions. And before any half-witted retard thinks of shouting racist or anti-Semitic, think again. They are using black and Jewish people here in a programme that they are totally unaware of and one which they did not consent to. In essence, they're pawns in their insidious game. So how did they do it? Final piece. Simple. They took over the media and launched propaganda. The first newspapers, then radio, then television, and finally cable, and onto the internet. And here is a quote by the same guy who introduced dumbing down education in America. And for those new to this group, education means training of animals. Which religious book declares all people except them are animals? The Talmud. Like the previous guy said, and begin a process which will deliver America to our cause in 1912. Henry Ford, back in 1920, quote, "Controlling the world's sources of news, Jews can always prepare the minds of the people for their next moves. The greatest exposure has yet to be made is the way the news is manufactured." This was 1920, fake news then. "And the way in which the minds of whole nations is moulded for a purpose." Take note of that. When the powerful Jew is at last traced and his hand revealed, then comes the ready cry of persecution, and it echoes through the world's press. The real causes of persecution which is the oppression of the peoples by the financial practice of the Jews, are never given publicity, unquote. So there was Henry Ford, near 100 years ago, telling you the news is faked. How they mould whole nations into a belief system that they created. How the world has been financially hijacked by these Khazarian psychopaths operating for and by the Talmud, in which all peoples not abiding by that book are essentially a piece of shit under their shoe. These are the human embodiments, and in fact, in some cases, not. From the Draco and the Anunnaki line. Both are known as the Chosen Ones. Both operated under the divide and conquer rule, and both operate in the sleight of hand and hidden realms. As a side note, was it possibly the case that Hitler exposed the Khazarian Jews in the 1930s and 40s? He did not say who was the issue. Did he not say who was the issue then? The Jewish bankers. So the line used by Henry Ford, when the powerful Jew is at last traced and his hand revealed, then comes the ready cry of persecution, and it echoes throughout the world's press, unquote. Hence the Jewish persecution narrative was rolled out with the 6 million Jews figure, which was mentioned 138 times in the press between 1880 and 1941. There's that timeline again, mentioned in last week's show, is it not? These are not Jewish at all. These are the Kalimar people, who have blighted this planet for over 110,000 years. And for us to really prosper here, they must be exposed. The light needs to shine on these cockroaches, and the issue dealt with once and for all, preferably in a non-violent way. We do not have to plunge to the despicable levels these anti-human parasites have, and I hope one day to see all the Jewish peoples rise up and expose it also. They've been pawns in a game that was not of their own making. This completes the cycle of my Russia with Love series in many aspects. It's all there, right in your face, and you can choose to ignore it or hide behind the racism card or face up to reality. The dark forces have been against the Urs, meaning the originals, from as far back as 110,000 years. 7,500 years ago was the destruction of the Aryan Atlantis. 5,000 years ago there was another conflict in the original Garden of Eden. 1,000 years ago they killed Radomir and ultimately Mary Magdalene, both of which were Rus Aryan and quite possibly part of the Urs teachers who came from the Ursa Minor constellation. 800 years ago, with Cohen, did another mass ritual sacrifice on the Rus and the Aryans. In the 1500s, the Catholic Church was torturing and murdering another Urs teacher, Anna, and also wiping out the Cathars, and also attempting to kill off Mary and Radomir's offspring line. In 1800s, the nuclear bombing of Russia. In the 1900s, deleting the Tsar's line, except not all were eliminated. In the 1900s again, brought the loss of 70 to 90 million Rus. They then created communism that has got nothing to do with Russia and everything to do with these people known as the Jews. And as stated by the Israel-Cohen piece, they then went on to the Slavonic regions, including Germany, and eliminated many of them also. Played the Aryan race card that all whites are only supremacists, when if you go back to 5,000 years ago, the Rus Aryans all came in peace to teach, not to destroy or eliminate. Then came the fake Cold War, which was against communism, we were told. And yet China wasn't included, except the Israel-Cohen peace proves communism is a Jewish propaganda machine, not Russian, not Chinese, or Vietnamese, or Cuban for that matter. And now we have the propaganda in the Portal People news of Russian collusion. In the meantime, the white population has gone from 30+% down to 12 in less than 100 years. If NATO, which is an anagram of Aton, another Egyptian god, quote unquote, and no, that's not a coincidence either. If NATO has its way, that 12% will plunge to the point of extinction. Who are NATO? Always ready to attack? Russia. Like I said in the last show, where are the Save the Whites banners, memes, charities or groups? Oh, they do exist, but they are branded by the dark forces think tank groups as right-wing, fascist, supremacist, violent and hate-filled groups, so the public turn away from it. And as a reminder of what Henry Ford stated, quote, "and the way in which the minds of whole nations is moulded for a purpose," unquote. And you begin to see how it all plays out. Israel was moulded and set up as that nation to carry the banner. But these psychopaths are in every nation, not just Israel. These people are not Jews, Jewish or Israelis at all. They are dark forces, the Kali Ma people and the Amun-Ra forces of evil, desecrating the whole of humanity with their satanic propensity to dabble in the dark arts, produce mass genocide and the most heinous levels of crime ever. But a final reminder, if you're hating on all Jews or Jewish for this, your thinking is at Portal People rhetoric level. In other words, beyond stupid. Find out the real truth behind it. And the vast majority of peoples known as Jews have been lied to, played for fools, and used as pawns in the worst game this planet has ever witnessed. We need to embrace those people. Teach them, not denigrate them. Just like the Urs, the Rus, and the Aryans did all those years ago. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.